I mean, it's fun. That the crowd was behind us today. It's fun to walk out of the gym on a high note.
The air inside the arena was thick with anticipation. From the moment the fans had begun pouring through the turnstiles, there was a hum, a steady vibration of excitement that you could almost feel beneath your feet. Banners rippled from the upper decks. The hardwood gleamed under the lights, and the Indiana Fever were ready to make a statement. The Chicago Sky had come to town, but the night belonged to Indiana before the ball had even gone up. From the opening possession, you could sense the aggression. Indiana's defense pressed high, their hands in passing lanes, their feet quick, their minds sharp. The Sky tried to advance, but the Fever swarmed like a storm. Then came the first spark, a turnover forced by relentless pressure. The ball popped free, and Cunningham pounced. Cunningham was a blur down the court, pushing in transition. Up ahead, Boston was already carving her lane toward the rim, her massive frame moving with surprising agility. Cunningham's pass floated perfectly into Boston's hands. Catch, gather, plant. Howard collided with her, stumbling slightly off balance, but the whistle stayed silent. Boston twisted in midair, her body absorbing the bump, her hands soft. On the ball, off the glass, straight through the net. The first 2 points and a message sent, Indiana had come to play. Cunningham took the next possession with a glance at the rim, selling the shot. The crowd rose a little, sensing the possibility. But she put the ball on the deck instead, driving hard. A hand reached in. Deflection. Suddenly, bodies were flying, crashing to the floor in a tangle of limbs and jerseys. For a heartbeat, no one knew where the ball was. Then, through the chaos, Kelsey Mitchell emerged. Calm, collected, dangerous. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Mitchell dribbled at the arc, eyes scanning her defender. She gave the faintest hesitation, a twitch in her shoulders that froze the defense just long enough. Then she was gone, slicing into the paint, floating toward the rim. The ball left. Her fingertips in a soft arc, kissed high off the glass, and dropped in. The sound of leather through nylon was drowned instantly by the roar of the Fever faithful. Moments later, Mitchell struck again. She came downhill with purpose, each dribble. Low and hard, the defender backpedaling. With a quick sidestep, she created just enough space to send another floater arching high, brushing the backboard before falling true. The touch was perfection, her shooting form a thing of beauty. Elbow high, wrist snapping down, eyes never leaving the rim. Head coach Stephanie White had said earlier in the week that Mitchell would remain true to her natural position, and here she was proving why. She'd been deadly from there all season, but tonight there was a special fire in her eyes. Jetting past her defender on the next sequence, Mitchell spotted Howard trailing and dropped off a perfect pass. Howard didn't hesitate, banking it, in for 2 more. The Fever lead began to build, brick by brick. At the other end, the battle between Aaliyah Boston and Camila Cardoso was already becoming something to watch. Boston, the reigning Rookie of the Year, was using her footwork and power to create space. On one possession, Mitchell handed the ball back to her, and Boston set her feet with precision, rising into a smooth jumper. The release was pure, the net snapping sharply as the points went on the board. Cardoso, standing at 6'7", was every bit the defensive anchor for Chicago, a massive target in the paint. She'd already collected 6 rebounds in the opening minutes, but Boston wasn't fazed. Backing down her defender on the next trip, Boston spun, flipped the ball softly over her shoulder, and watched it drop. Her footwork was surgical, her balance flawless. Chicago tried to respond quickly. Williams took the ball off the dribble, but her shot rimmed out. Indiana wasted no time pushing the other way. The pass swung to Lexie Hull on the perimeter, wide open. She rose, released, and splashed a 3. The crowd's reaction told the story. This was the shot she needed, the one that could break a cold streak and open the floodgates. And just like that, Lexie Hull was catching fire. She pivoted, pirouetted into a tough mid-range look, a hand in her face, and still nailed it. The Fever bench leapt to its feet. Mitchell, sensing the moment, turned up the heat. With Allen defending, she executed a deadly step-back three, creating separation with a sharp pull. The ball sailed through the air, found the bottom of the net, and Mitchell's expression didn't change. Just another day's work. The Fever began rolling their substitutions. Michaela Timpson stepped onto the floor for her first minutes. Maddie Westfeld checking in as well. The energy didn't drop for a second. Mitchell, still in rhythm, rose from deep again and buried another three. She was in that zone, the one defenders dread. Boston, never one to be left out of the scoring, waited for a play to develop but saw her chance. No double team came, so she went to work. Pump fake, one dribble, footwork like poetry. In motion, and 2 more points. Chicago, desperate for an answer, brought in a recent acquisition with 10 seconds left in the quarter, tasked immediately with defending Mitchell. It was a baptism by fire. Mitchell used a screen, created space, and at the last second, dished to Boston, who let the ball trickle in as the buzzer sounded. The second quarter began with a burst of finesse from Dantas. Receiving a handoff, she stepped inside, fading away off one leg in a move that would have made Dirk Nowitzki proud. The jumper swished. The crowd murmured its approval. Lexie Hull, however, wasn't done making her mark. She chased down a loose ball, dove for it, popped back up, and gave Indiana another possession. Cunningham capitalized immediately, knocking down the second chance jumper. Chicago's offense looked for stability, going inside to Cardoso. She had been their most reliable option so far, but this time Boston met her at the rim and sent the shot away. The crowd exploded at the block, the sound echoing through the rafters. Indiana turned defense into offense instantly. Mitchell found herself with plenty of space and, instead of forcing, passed back to Boston. Boston caught, powered her way to the basket, moving furniture, as the commentators would say, and finished strong. That was Aaliyah Boston, immovable in the paint, unstoppable once she got the angle. The crowd inside the arena was already buzzing, but as the second half got underway, the Indiana Fever were determined to turn that buzz into an unshakable roar. Chicago came out trying to claw their way back into the game, but Indiana had the momentum, and they weren't about to give it away. Nurse brought the ball across midcourt, looking to set up the Sky offense, but she had a shadow. A relentless defender in front of her and the Fever's help defense lurking behind. Cunningham caught a pass on the wing, feet set, hands ready. Without hesitation, she let it fly. Another three, pure. The net barely moved. The crowd rose again, and the Fever lead held strong. Chicago needed to settle into their half-court game. They needed composure. But instead, Nurse lost control. The ball popped loose, and Mitchell was on it in an instant. It was a 2-on-1 foot race. The sound of sneakers squealing against the hardwood filled the air as Mitchell pushed forward with Cunningham on her right. One bounce, one pass, and Cunningham glided to the rim for 2 more. Smooth, ruthless. This was a game missing one of Chicago's emotional leaders, Sidney Colson, out for the year with an ACL tear. That absence left a void, and Indiana kept finding ways to exploit it. Then came Lexie Hull's moment. She caught the ball, absorbed the contact, and still finished at the rim. The whistle blew, and won. After weeks of battling through shooting slumps, here she was, smiling, shaking her head, walking to the free throw line as if to say, "Yeah, that's the one I needed." Indiana's baseline execution was surgical. Hull curled off a screen, caught and released in one motion. Another bucket. The Fever had their largest lead of the game, and the Sky had no answers. The Sky tried to push, back. Onyenwere drove into the lane, but Howard rotated perfectly, her timing impeccable. The block sent the ball ricocheting toward the sideline, and the crowd erupted. Howard had been battling her own struggles this season, missing 7 of 8. The last 9 games with a back injury, but tonight she looked locked in. Chicago looked to Cardoso in the paint again, their towering centerpiece. But Indiana's interior defense was airtight. She fought for the rebound, stepped through, and still found herself swatted again. The Fever's defense was not giving, up an inch inside. The story of the night wasn't just Indiana's shooting, it was their control. They had only 5 turnovers despite not having a true point guard on the floor. Kelsey Mitchell, in particular, was steering the ship. She caught the ball beyond the arc, rose with confidence, and drilled another triple. The rhythm was unstoppable. Boston checked back in and instantly made her presence felt. The Sky got a quick 6 points off the bench, but Boston's mismatch inside was glaring. She and Atkins got tangled up, but Boston freed herself just enough to pop up a delicate baseline jumper. Nothing but net. The Fever had to sustain this lead without Clark, and Mitchell was more than willing to shoulder the load. She took Van Lith one-on-one, blew past her, absorbed the contact, and finished with finesse. That was the kind of fearless basketball that defined her career. Chicago's rebounding woes were evident without Angel Reese on the floor. They couldn't control the glass, and Indiana kept punishing them for it. Dantas stepped back and showed off her own graceful footwork, knocking down a jumper that had the Fever bench nodding in approval. Cunningham missed a layup on the next. Trip, but Timpson was right there, crashing the offensive glass like she was on a mission. She snatched the rebound, drew the foul, and converted the and one. Plays like that were why the Fever were in command. Hustle, grit, and unselfishness. Mitchell's vision kept opening the floor. 10 seconds on the shot clock, she drew 2 defenders, then zipped the ball to a wide-open Cunningham in the corner. Splash! The Fever's ball movement was contagious, and Chicago couldn't keep up. Now it was Van Lith trying to survive an island matchup with Mitchell. The crowd knew what was coming. Mitchell gave the hesitation dribble, freezing her defender, then floated a soft runner high off the glass. Poetry in motion. Cunningham drew. The defense again, and found Hull in the corner. Another 3. The Fever's shooting was relentless, and their confidence was soaring. Indiana had won 4 straight at home, and they were feeding off that energy. Cunningham ripped the ball away on defense, and the break was on. Cole ran the left lane, Cunningham on the right. 1 pass, 1 return, and the bucket was in. The passing was selfless, smooth, and devastatingly effective. Chicago tried to regroup, but the Fever kept coming. Dahami went to work inside, showing flashes of the growth her game had taken in the second half of the season. Timpson fought through contact again and finessed another jumper over the outstretched arms of her defender. The Sky had started the game hot from 3, but now their rhythm had evaporated. Indiana was suffocating them. A miscommunication led to another steal, and Hull took off down the floor. She swung it back up top, the ball kept moving, and Westfeld found herself with space. Step-back jumper. Pure. Nurse tried to respond, driving. Hard, but Turner's defense was immaculate. Clean, disciplined, unyielding. In the closing stretch, the Fever's fans were still on their feet. Mitchell found herself in the corner, caught, and let it go. String music. She finished with 26 points before checking out, the crowd giving her a standing ovation. Hull, not to be outdone, let 1 more 3 fly. The crowd knew before it dropped